Are you loving it? Are you loving it? Well, this weekend I got busy. I got really busy. I started painting. I actually, in the first, well, it's kind of painting. It's a digital painting. And I came up with this little guy. Woo. And he's got some movement. He's got some fun. Looks like I'm online. And I'll just chat here for a little bit. Boy, I tell you what, it seems like every day gets a little bit more crazy, loony bin. It does. Every single day. Yeah. Well, this piece here is called Doctor Who. And it's capital W, capital H, capital O. And I don't know, do you know of any other agency that might have those initials that are kind of important right now? Whew. Yeah. Whoop. Look away, look away, look away. Look away. So, well, and if you're on, please give me a holler on the chat. Comment so I know who you are. And so this is I don't know. I wasn't quite ready to come on. I just had a phone call. Someone asking me about getting some prints done. Because Art Print Express, it's our sponsor. It's our sponsor. Yeah. And when you get Art Print Express, you also get me. Yeah. Hey, Richie, how are you doing? Yeah. So if you want to support me and my live streams here, you can always go to artprintexpress.com and get a print made. And you can get a print made of any digital image, all your favorites. So this isn't like one of those you have to get X. You can get whatever it is that you want. Earlier today, this little character kept wanting to go that way. And, I'm having a hard time getting him to just settle down. Settle down. Simmer down now. Anyway. So, and of course he's out of that little picture there. And what I do is I take a bunch of self-portraits. The little mask there, the bird beak, that I printed that. I designed it in Blender and printed it. And you'll recognize, if you know my work, you'll recognize the glasses. They're from my Mad Scientist one. Can we find a cure? And of course, I've got myself a little top hat to fit the era. And then I've got a little coat. A little coat. It's a long coat. And I've got a Doctor Who scarf. That's an official Doctor Who scarf that my mama bought me for Christmas several years ago. Yep. And then the little tie there. Thought that added a nice little punch of color. Made it look like it was part of the era that you would expect with the plague doctor. But there's a lot of symbolism in this piece here, and I'll let you tell me all about that. Tell me if what all you might see in that piece. You can pull it up on Facebook. You find it on all my Facebooks. I think not Art Print Express's Facebook, but you can get it on my personal ones. And most likely, if you're on Facebook watching me. So anyway, so what's going on? I just got done watching the Kansas governor give off her daily brief. And that was interesting because my son woke up this morning and he was not happy because he went to this website, Kansas Department of Labor. And he is not one to need, he needs it like everybody does, but he doesn't have a whole bunch of dependents depend on him. But he wasn't able to go in and do his weekly statement that he was still unemployed because it's offline. And the interesting thing is the governor told everybody on Facebook not an hour ago that it was online. So I've had this up for a little while. So let's be fair. Let me refresh that. No, it's still gone. I'm refreshing. And it's gone. It's still off. Now, there's a lot of questions that come along with this. Okay. First of all, let's talk about what she said. I got my notes around here somewhere because I made extra notes when I had my last phone call. Okay, there it is. She said that there was a 3,000% offline, which I suppose is, since their offices are closed, those are probably phone calls. Increase, 3,000% increase of unemployment filings. And online, there was 6,000% increase. She gave some numbers, but it doesn't matter. Because when you have an online system, or any system, that has those kinds of increases, those are it's going to break. It's like if you got 6,000% more stress in your life. If you got 6,000% more stress in your life, you would break. You would break, just like the website. So, the system's strained. And I think the system's strained everywhere. I think the system's strained personally. I think the system is strained nationally. And families and critters are feeling it. Everybody's strained. And as long as this goes on, it's going to be more and more strained. So, the system that they have is 40 years old. I was just trying to think. Did they come online when I was 10? Anyway, the system they have is 40 years old, and they've just kind of patchworked it. So the infrastructure is broken. Horribly, horribly broken. Meanwhile, they're talking about it. They've got some experts in to try to fix this. They worked over the weekend. And the governor was under the impression it was it was back up. It is not back up. Have you ever seen a bureaucracy work efficiently? Of course. Here's the deal. Even Kansas, who doesn't have a whole lot, we do not have New York City levels of coronavirus, CV-19, beer bug. We don't have that level, but yet we have a stay-at-home order that they said was going to be lifted on the 19th, but today there was more discussion about the lifting of that. And we had an increase of 39 cases since yesterday. So, let's think about this for a minute. The additional thing that they talked about was trying to get all the testing in. She had one of their doctors that's got credentials, our own Fauci, which I didn't catch his name. I think they kind of mumbled over it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's somewhere. It's written somewhere. Anyway. So, it doesn't matter. He's credentialed. He's an expert. He's concerned that we don't have enough of a certain kind of swab in order to get the testing done. They have abilities to do way more testing than they do, but they're not getting the swabs. And he was talking about 3D printing swabs. But I think that's all has to be done not by general people having 3D printers. I think it has to be actually done in an environment that, you know, not everybody has in their house. So, sterile environment. So, he also talked about it may be another couple weeks before they pull up this, because they're not going to know whether or not we've had a level off or not for 7 to 14 days. And there was some expressed concern about the number of people who may get this language right, who may have gone to church and exposed themselves to other people over the Easter holiday, which may also extend our beautiful life at home. So, that's all I've got to really say about that. Here's the deal. Here is the real situation. It doesn't matter if it's federal. It doesn't matter if it's state. Nobody was prepared for this. Not a single person was prepared for this. So, where do you put the blame? There is no blamed place. We were unprepared. We were caught flat-footed. And I guarantee you by the time we're done with this, we'll be, another 10% more prepared for the next one. Because that's all. I mean, these bureaucracies, they're not going to put in all the infrastructure that is going to make this all efficient. They're going to make it work. They're putting Band-Aids, and they're building the plane as it goes down the runway. So anybody looking for unemployment checks soon, I mean, in other words, being able to get in and claim. See, I already went in and claimed, in advance of the self-employment. Now I understand that I have to go back in and reclaim. I have to be rejected first, and then I can go in and reclaim. The last time I went in, or went to try to do this, they told me I had to call because of my situation. So when I did call, it took me 195 times just to get the robot to get in line. I spent a long time. That was hitting the button to dial, and it would give me a dial tone, and then I would hang up and hit the dial again. 195 times. My phone told me that. I did not count it. So, let me see here. Where do I want to go next? How is this? Okay, this is a political article that I thought was interesting. And I'm gonna try to move this over so you can see it better. There we go. Because all these websites, they don't have the same layout. It's goofy. Anyway. So how is it that coronavirus will change the world permanently? And here's how. And every time somebody on the news says, well, this is a new reality, this is what we're going to have to live with. And I say, no, we don't have to live with the way things are now. So this is okay, we can reorder. They're talking about reordering society in dramatic ways, for better or for worse. And here are 34 big thinkers' predictions for what's to come. They went and talked to these people. And I thought it was interesting that there was the 9/11 and the 2018 financial crisis reshaped society in lasting ways. Okay, but there is specific things that are way different now than what today. I remember in 2008, and especially on 9/11, we all came together. Okay, so some big thinkers, some macro thinkers, and so they kind of went over that there. So let's just look at these headlines here and take some thoughts about it. So the personal becomes dangerous. What do they mean by that? Deborah Tannen is a professor of linguistics at Georgetown and author, most recently of You're the Only One I Can Tell, Inside the Language of Women's Friendships. Okay. On 9/11, Americans discovered they were vulnerable to calamities and thought it only happened in distant lands. The 2008 financial crisis told us that we can suffer the calamities of past eras, like the economic meltdown of the Great Depression. Now, the 1918 flu pandemic was a sudden specter in our lives. They don't even have the right date on that. Anyway, the loss of innocence or complacency is a new way of being in the world that we can expect to change our doing in the world. We know now that touching things, being with other people, and breathing the air in an enclosed space can be risky. How quickly that awareness recedes will be different for different people, but it can never vanquish completely for anyone who has lived through this year. It could become a second nature to recoil from shaking hands or touching our faces, and we might all find that we cannot stop washing our hands. The comfort of being in the presence of others might be replaced by a greater comfort with absence, especially with those we don't know intimately. Instead of asking, is there a reason to do this online? We'll be asking, is there any good reason to do this in person? And might need to be reminded and convinced that there is. Unfortunately, if unintendedly, those without easy access to broadband will be further disadvantaged. The paradox, well, that's something that Kansans need to be concerned about, especially out further west, out in those remote hinterlands of Kansas. The paradox of online communication will be ratcheted up. It creates more distance, yes, but also more connection as we communicate more often with people who are physically further and further away and who feel safer to us because of that distance. That's an interesting mindset. Yep, I can see how that's going to be the way it is. But I don't see it as being dangerous. See, they get you with the headline. A new kind of patriotism. Okay, and that's Mark Lawrence, an associate professor, political science. Okay. America has long equated patriotism with the armed forces. Okay. Apparently, Mark did not live in 1976. That year was a patriotic year. There was all sorts of flags a-flying, and all sorts of things that were going on because of the, what do they call it, quincentennial. He also probably wasn't around much after 9/11 because that's when patriotism and pride in the United States shone pretty brightly. All right, but you can't shoot a virus. Okay, I see. He's wanting that armed forces. You can't shoot a virus, but you sure as heck can kill it. I think they have hydroxychloroquine for that. Oh! Okay, those on the front lines against the coronavirus aren't conscripts, mercenaries, or enlisted men. Like none of those people have ever, or like these enlisted men and all that stuff. Enlisted assumes that it wasn't voluntary. And I tell you what, I lived without my husband for over 2 years after 9/11. Not what I'd signed up for. That's what I had to live with. They are our doctors, our nurses, our pharmacists, our teachers, our caregivers, our store clerks, utility workers, and basically everyone are on the front lines. No, basically everyone is. Since the Civil War, we have not had a war on our contiguous United States of the United States. Like, oh, I'm gonna really murder this name here. Like Winnie Lang. I'm not gonna hang on it. And the doctors of Wuhan, many are suddenly saddled with unfathomable tasks, compounded by increased risk of contamination and death they never signed up for. Yep. That's why they call it a pandemic. Unfortunately, when all said and done, perhaps we will recognize their sacrifice as true patriotism. I absolutely believe that already. When it's all said and done, patriotism is about taking care of your neighbors, loving your country, and saying thank you for your service. I don't know if I would actually say thank you for your service, because how about thank you for your dedication? I tell you what, I could not be a healthcare provider. I knew that early on in my life. And I am always thankful for healthcare providers because they do things that I couldn't possibly even imagine doing on a regular day-to-day basis. From the phlebotomists, is that what you say? The people who take bloods, to the people who do surgeries, and everybody in between. There's no way I could be doing that job. And I appreciate them already. Well before this, as much as I do military veterans. And I live in a military family. My husband works for the military. Okay, so this is really short-sighted. We will give them a guaranteed health benefits and corporate discounts and build statues and have holidays for this new class of people who sacrifice their health and their lives for ours. Perhaps, too, we will finally start to understand patriotism more as cultivating the health and life of our community. What rock has this guy been under? Rather than blowing up someone else's community. Oh, no bias. You need to pull down your skirts there, dude, because your bias is showing. Maybe the demilitarization of American patriotism and love of community will be one of the benefits to come out of this whole awful mess. Well, I certainly hope that anybody who thinks that patriotism is all about shooting up other countries, I certainly do hope that this changes their mind. All right. A decline in polarization? That's going to take years. Okay. But I have a feeling they're not going to talk exactly what I thought that headline meant. The extraordinary shock to our system that the coronavirus pandemic is bringing has the potential to break America out of a 50-plus year pattern of escalating political and cultural polarization we have trapped ourselves in. Oh, we have been trapped in. See, I'm reading ahead and my brain is making up stuff now. Okay, we have been trapped in. And help us change the course toward greater national solidarity and functionality. It might sound idealistic, but there are 2 reasons to think it can happen. Oh, do you think it could happen? First is the common enemy scenario. Oh, okay. The virus is our common enemy, and so that'll bring us together. Well, that kind of happened for a short time after 9/11. Which, of course, everybody here that wasn't in the military or associated with military sat nicely and comfortably in their homes while our military went to go fight the war. But now, today, everyone is affected unless your state hasn't done the whole lockdown. Excuse me, my mouth's getting dry. The common enemy, in which people began to look past their differences when faced with a shared external threat. Now, that makes me think of Reagan. All right, COVID-19 is presenting us with a formidable enemy that will not distinguish between reds and blues, and everybody else. If you're human, it's going to get you. Got to believe that. And might provide us with a fusion-like energy and singularity of purpose to help us reset and regroup. During the Blitz, the 56-day Nazi bombing campaign against Britain, Winston Churchill's cabinet was amazed and heartened to witness the ascendance of human goodness, altruism, compassion, and generosity in spirit in action. The second reason, of course, is a political shockwave scenario. Studies have shown that strong, enduring relational patterns often become... I'm sorry, the computer's a little far away from me. Enduring relational patterns often become more susceptible to change after some type of major shock destabilizes them. Yeah, everybody with no money and the economy's collapsing. It's a major shock. Everybody's dying. Economy's collapsing. Yeah, okay. This doesn't necessarily happen right away, but a study of 850 enduring interstate conflicts that occurred between 1860 and 1992 found that more than 75% of them ended up with 10 years of major destabilizing shock. Society shocks can break different ways, making things better or worse. But given our current levels of tension, this scenario suggests that now is the time to begin to promote a more constructive patterns in our cultural and political discourse. The time is ripe. Time for change is clearly ripening. Well, I don't know. He needs to go talk to those people up on Capitol Hill. None of them seem to be not wanting to politicize this. A return to faith in serious experts. Okay. Goodness, how much of this is... Okay. Okay, this is too much. Do you see here, they want you to believe the serious experts, not experts in general, kind of like the COVID or the quinine, whatever the narrative, and whoever they choose as the serious expert is who they want you to listen to. All right, I don't even have to read that to you. That's what that means. Less individualism, and I don't like that idea. Oh, he's already putting that in your mind. Imagine President Trump trying to suspend your November election. Yeah. Here's another guy. He thinks that we can reorient our politics and new investments in public goods. Yeah, that's pie in the sky. Less individualism. I knew that's where that was going. All right. Different worship will look different. Religious worship will look different. Because you're going to do it from home. Excuse me. This too will pass. This too will pass. And people will start going back to church. Oh, for crying out loud. And that was interesting. This, when I was watching the governor's address, there was a whole lot of people on there that wasn't happy with the whole church, not going to church and getting, And what's interesting on that was she was asked about how this was going to be enforced. And she said, the thing is, I don't understand why they're asking that when it's yesterday. But she says, that'll be done on a local level. See, then she can just pass it on. Whatever it was that she mandated, that she wrote as an executive order, she's just passing that on. They're passing that on down. That just the police officers now have to make that decision. Religious worship will look different. Okay. It certainly will. And I'll let you read that one. New forms of reform. Okay. So he's equating the AIDS epidemic and okay, that's interesting. Tell you what. This is a little I lived through the 80s. I had one of my best friends from high school die from AIDS. This wasn't a pandemic. They were worried it would be. Okay. Yes. And here was the crux, is that the people involved, the people affected by it, built organizations and made things happen. Sometimes our leaders don't necessarily fail, but they have bigger pies to look at. So there was nothing wrong with this, and we see the recourse of that today. Yep. Deadly flaws in the healthcare system, such as not being able to see your partner, even though, because you weren't family. Yep. Protection of marriage. Yep, it did. I will agree. This epidemic, this situation changed an awful lot of things since the 80s. But we're in 2020. It's 40 years. The same length of time that the unemployment has been a problem in Kansas. the system, how old, I guess, the system is in Kansas. We haven't done anything since the 80s. Ah, boy, this one just keeps going on. I should have known when it said 34. So, we just got started. A boon for virtual reality. I'd have to say that was true. Rise of telemedicine. And I think that that's probably a good thing. It'll make, that will certainly make everybody safer. Right, especially now. An opening for stronger family care. I'll let you read that one. Government becomes big pharma. That's scary. Science reigns again. That goes back up to the experts. Congress can finally go virtual. Big government makes a comeback. Are you happy with that? I don't think so. New civic federalism. Oh, the rules we've lived by don't all apply. There we go. Oh, we got another one. Revive trust in institutions. Okay. Expect a political uprising. I think so. I think you're going to see a political uprising like no one's ever seen. But probably not like this person has seen. Yeah. Yeah. You say pitchfork consequences. Electronic voting goes mainstream. I don't know. Election day become election month, and I don't have a problem with that. Why have this? Oh, that's two different experts. I think that election month or election week. More restraints on mass consumption. Because of toilet paper. Okay, stronger domestic supply chains. Oh, what we have is just on time supply chains. And so I think we will end up with more domestic, and then that, which will also mean more expensive. And I'm not positive about that. We're all in this together, brother. Hunger for diversion. That's what I've had. Give me anything. Anything. Make me. Wait a minute, here. Yeah, carefree entertainment. That's what I thought it meant. Hunger for diversion. Yep. Entertainment. Pushing that entertainment. Less communal dining. But maybe more cooking. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Maybe the restaurants just can start being meal planners for everybody. That works. Revival of parks. Well, I thought people were getting arrested for being too close in the parks. Oh, crying out loud. Okay, a change in our understanding of change. Depends, they're going to change the definition of the word change. It depends on what you mean by the word is. What you mean by is. What the definition of is. What's the change? What's changes? Okay. Tyranny. Sorry about that. Okay. The tyranny of habit. No more. Huh. Peak performance, productivity. Let's see. I'm just looking over here. That any. Instead, he would consider it blames the obliteration of fictional Algerian town by an epidemic. Okay, let's see. Maybe the habit-bound townspeople lack imagination. Okay. Well, yeah. And that's the end of the article. Whew! Thank goodness. That's some good food for thought. But here, something I want you to consider. I want you to go and take a look at this movie, Out of the Shadows. Here's the trailer.
Probably had one of the coolest jobs in the world. U.S. intelligence was using motion pictures to alter the thinking of Americans in the United States.
It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. Those who tell us stories rule society. All right, where that is Out of Shadows. I think it was on this list. Give it a second. Yeah, there it is. I will put this in the comments. I got to find my comments now. There they are. There you go. And I'll put that political article in here too. There we go. Oh, let's see if the state's still on offline. Yep, it's still offline. You can't really see it on here. If I'm updating that or not. There we go. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit refresh. Refresh. Yep, still offline. Now, here's one more thing I want to tell you about. These 2A note cards. And they got these cute little schnauzer dogs with poppies on them. They're totally cute. This is made by my good friend Jennifer, and she's a maker of good things. And I'm going to put this in the chat too, since no one else is chatting. There we go. There we go. There we go. Let's see here. Oh, this was just some Yahoo News that I had pulled up that I thought was kind of interesting. Coronavirus may give the president a long-sought chance to privatize the postal service. That's interesting. And then okay, which will make everything go up, you know, privatizing it. The Fauci says the U.S. could have saved lives with earlier action. Well, no shit. Excuse me. But everything could be helped by earlier action. Here's an example. The state office, Kansas Department of Labor, could have benefited from early action of fixing the infrastructure of their unemployment services, online and off. Duh. Right. Well, they're starting off there. We go. I guess the money's all in the vaccine. Never mind the stuff that's helping people recover. Oh, those poor rats. But poor rats. They are getting starving, angry, and cannibalistic. And if you don't get the employment benefits fixed, guess who else is going to get starving, angry, and cannibalistic? It won't be just the rats. Putin says Russia may need the army to help battle coronavirus. Well, according to the map, there isn't anybody there that has it. Do you believe the map? Well, I suppose that anybody getting Social Security is probably left out. Yep. Oh, if they don't have a Social Security number either. Let's see. I'm just looking at the headlines because, they say what you to hear. For Yeezy shoes? I don't need Adidas Yeezy shoes. For crying out loud. See, this is materialistic BS. Yes, the insider. New York's public school teachers describe being unprepared and overwhelmed. Oh, probably because they went online. Yes, they weren't remote. They weren't used to remote teaching. Oh, You want to know how overwhelmed I was when I figured out that my business was no longer going to have open doors? Adapt, change, make it work. I got a printer at the house so I could actually do some work at the house. Not getting much because people don't have any frigging money. Okay, so that's enough headlines for me today. Oh, this is new. The airlines are doing boarding procedures. There is this light called the UVC light that they could put in their planes to kill the virus. So that at least the plane is. Oh, that's sad. Somebody died. Lots of people dying. Boy. Oh. They're they're probing now seniors' homes deaths. They got lots of older people dying in homes. Huh. Okay, I want you to take a look at that. Here's the biggest news you missed this weekend. And the first one thing here is man finds a piece of plastic embedded in a supermarket Easter egg. That's what's the biggest news. That was the biggest news. Because it was the first one. Okay, so after you watch this Out of Shadows, you'll understand my sarcasm here. Did I get everybody? Oh, one last thing. Oh, for crying out loud. I want you to take a look at this up here. It says, did Kansas prisoners at Lansing get a COVID-19 death sentence? Well, apparently last Thursday, Lansing prisoners rioted because there were 12 inmates. I'm going to highlight it. As of last Friday, 12 inmates and 60 employees in Lansing had tested positive for the virus, and 7 of them were under observation. Okay, so now I wish somebody would really explain this to me. The ACLU of Kansas on Thursday asked the state Supreme Court, after these guys rioted, to immediately release prisoners who fall into one or more of these categories, which is medically vulnerable, are in for low-level crimes, or whose sentences are almost up anyway, and who have somewhere to go. Here's the thing about language. Does it "and" mean they have to meet one of these 3 criteria and this one? And if there is, that means it's possible that this many people in that area, in that confined space, that most of them already have it as of Friday. They're carrying it around with them. So they're just going to want to release them into the public. I hope that they're going to quarantine them if they decide to do that. And as a prisoner, would you just be so frustrated for being quarantined? Yep, and this is definitely not a problem with a simple solution. Yep. So I thought that was interesting. I would think that people in the correction facility, how did the COVID get there? Were they not, well, I guess it's possible that that's where those, okay, we know that the free-for-all broke out in the cell block adjacent to the new building just completed, where the COVID-19 patients were being treated. After it ended, that's where those who had been living in, now uninhabitable, in cell block C, which was built in the 1860s, had to move. I guess I don't understand that whole. Let me read this again. We do not know what the free-for-all broke out. We do not know. We do know. Oh, okay. We do know that the free-for-all broke out in the cell block adjacent to the new building, just completed, where the COVID-19 patients were being treated. They were being treated in the new building. Okay. After it ended, that's where those who had been living in the now uninhabitable cell block C, which was built in, had to move. After it ended, after the riot, that's where those who had been living in the now uninhabitable cell block C, which was, they rioted because they had to move out of their space because the COVID-19, that's all I can gather out of there, that the COVID-19 patients were being treated, and they had been living in the uninhabitable cell block C, which was built in the 1860s, and had to move. So, no, this whole paragraph, I don't understand it. How is it that our journalists could actually write something that hard to understand? How is that? How is that even a thing? I don't get it. Desktop. Here's the thing. How is it that in our modern society that we are expected to believe, no, we are fed narratives that anyone with a small amount of intelligence, average intelligence even, and an idea of some idea of history, that we are being fed narratives that we're expected to believe with a straight face. And they have no problem publishing them with a straight face or talking about them on TV with a straight face. This is why I have my sad little guy. And he's going, he keeps looking the wrong way because I'm set up so that this is like backwards or something. So, well, I hope you enjoy your evening. I hope you enjoy your evening. I'm sitting here messing with this stupid screen because he keeps leaning out of the. Well, that's because he's clear on the edge. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I know you're probably watching this afterwards because I have had absolutely nobody online. But that's all right. I'm here. I'm here trying to stay sane. I'm trying to figure out the mysteries in my little Doctor Who. All right. We'll catch you all later.